Hello everyone, Daniel Kerr here. So welcome to the first part of the series on doing vocal processing in the Akai Force. Now I had this video, a different video with different vocals and a different track done already, and I was going to show you guys my first attempts, and it ended up being like about an hour long, and it was just basically the whole entire process was like pulling teeth. So I loaded up a new track, found a new vocal, and I've decided to use this one. Now the reason why it was so hard is because this first video in the series is going to be on using just the Akai Force to do this in a DAW-less manner. The second part is going to be doing the same vocal on the same or similar track, and I'm going to be using Ableton Live to process the vocals and get the clips ready before importing them into the Force. Obviously, there are people who just want to do the DAW-less route, and so this is the that portion of this. I will tell you right now that I've spent a lot of years using hardware samplers to do remixes or just to sample old breakbeats or old jazz records or vocals or anything like that, and it usually entails plugging the mixer or the record, the turntable directly into your sampler and taking cuts or you know, any other audio source, but you basically pull the samples first, you get a groove going, and then you lay the drums and the music down over that. That process is very, very simple and very straightforward because you start with the vocal and then you build the track on top of the vocal. This process is very, very different, and it involves taking a pre-built track or a piece of music and then grabbing another vocal which is not in key and not in the same tempo and basically making it adhere to this track. And some other samplers and things, my old S series or Akai MPC 2000, the older MPCs or anything else, it'd be very difficult for this to even happen. In the Force, MPC 1, MPC Live, MPCX, etc., it's going to be a lot easier because we have this DAW in a box type software, right? So some of these options, time stretching is very, very good on here. The warp engine, no, warping is terrible. I do use the time stretch engine, and you'll see that there's a massive difference. Anyway, let's get started. The vocal I chose is the old Desireless electro track or synth pop track called Voyage Voyage. It's French. Shout out to my French family. For those who don't speak French, this is going to be a little interesting, but yeah, be exposed to some culture. Okay, right away, here's a piece of music. Straightforward techno. Gonna hear a couple of the synth parts. It's kind of how it progresses. Just letting you hear some of the music because it's important, you know, to get some context. A little loud, so I'm turning the top loop down. Okay, so that's what the music sounds like. Now I'm going to go to load. I'm going to go to my hard drive. I'm going to go to the Melodic Techno Toolkit. And inside there, I'm going to load the vocal sample, Voyage Voyage Original. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just went to one of my key groups, and I'm going to try to find what the key is in. And now my template for this, for my notes mode, basically is starts on root, scales, and then whatever minor, okay? I do use Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, sometimes Dorian. I use them all, even major, but I use them in strange ways. The default is natural minor, scales, your root note, and starts on root, which as you can see in the on the 64 pads right now. The root notes are on the left and right side of the 64 pad grid. What I need to change them to is piano so that I can listen. However, I've already listened to this, right? And even you can see, even on the first time through, I know that these vocals are in G, probably G minor. It sounds like a minor, but I'm going to test it. So from here, I go to a keyboard part. And I go to sample edit, and I load up the sample, and I hit that headphone icon at the top so that I can tap the screen and audition the sample. Listen. Here's the first, you're going to hear the vocal. Very beautiful vocal, by the way. I told you it was Desireless, Voyage, Voyage, but this is actually, excuse me, this is actually a cover by this French chick, and she's amazing. And there's just piano in the background, and what melodic techno artist has ever shied away from the piano? Answer: zero, nobody. So I left it in there. It's a very clean vocal, and I'm going to put her information on the screen here so that you know who the artist is, and I'm going to link her her YouTube channel in the comments. So here's what she sounds like. I'm going to change this. I go to chromatic first, but no, that's not where I want to be. I want to go to piano, and I want to change the root note to C. Now okay. There, I just went over the G. I've already ascertained it's in G minor. I'm going to test that right now. Moving the start position to the start of the vocals, or the start of where I really want the sample to come in. This isn't it. Okay, I'm going to use the magnifying glass tool and zoom in a little so I can find a good start point. Go back to the headphone tool. I'm going to use my left hand to do some G minor. Make sure that's the key. That sounds right to me. So I go back to the sample here in sample edit, and I go to transpose, and I bring that down 2 semitones. Now obviously this changes the tempo of the sample as well. So the next thing I need to do, I'll show you. I'm listening to the speed of the sample when it's pitched correctly to go with the rest of my track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the sample edit. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to use tap tempo to figure out what the speed is right here. And then I'm going to go to matrix and look at the tempo, and I see that I've tapped out 92.88. So I'm going to try 92 first because my taps tend to be a little faster. And I'm going to go to launch, and I'm going to put a clip in with that sample in it. So audio channel, add an audio channel. Down here on this row, you'll see there's not a lot of instrumentation, so I go to that clip, and at the top I go to edit, I think, or what's it say up there? Grid. I go to grid, and I go to the select tool, that little square, and that gives me a chance to browse samples. So I'm going to double tap that and go all the way to the bottom to grab our sample. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger the sample and get some drums going, probably the top loops, just to see how close I was with the BPM. I'm going to dial in the BPM to match this sample. I'm doing this for a reason. Obviously the original track is in 123, but I need to know with this pitched sample in the key that I need to know what, setting the start point, back to grid, back to magnifying glass tool. It's like pulling teeth. It's a ridiculous workflow. And here I'm trying to set the start time and I can't. I gotta go back to the clip view at the top. There you go. Get it right. Okay. Get some drums going just to test the tempo. Pretty good so far. Now I can hear it drifting, so I go to the tempo and turn it down to 91. 90. Unfortunately, now I have to go, because I've changed the tempo. I've got to go back to the clip and adjust the start time again eventually. Oh, it's so weird. I think in retrospect I could have avoided this start point of the clip continuing to be augmented or changed when we were in the sample edit screen before, if I would have done extract and I think it's called extract, and cut all that empty space off at the beginning of the sample. Then the clip could have just started at 100 and it wouldn't keep changing like this. Listening. Back to matrix, not quite right. Go to 89. Adjust the start point again. Oh my gosh. Sounds good. That's the closest that we've gotten so far as far as tempo.
Des ailes sous le tapis du vent. Voyage, voyage.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Éternellement.
The tempo's still a little fast, but at this point it doesn't matter, because when I end up using this, I'm going to chop it into clips anyway, and I can even stretch them from there if I need to. I'm going to discard the extra sample time, extra space, and preserve only the sample that we've isolated starting at the right point, which is what I'm saying I could have done before. And this takes a long time. Okay, so at this point I know that the new tempo is 89, okay, and that the track tempo that I'm trying to match is 123. So what I do is I hit process down here in the sample editor, and I scroll to time stretch, and it says original sample or original tempo 89, enter. New tempo, the target tempo, double tap, 123, do it, and do it. And this takes a long time, minutes. Okay, so now this is done. Oh, hear that new tempo?
Au-dessus des vieux volcans, glisse des ailes sous le tapis du vent. Voyage, voyage.
Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go to the clip, and I turned off loop, okay, that single clip, that solo clip, and I turned off loop, and I set the start point down to 11000, okay, so that it starts right at the beginning. And now, with the clip still soloed, I'm going to go and make sure that the end point of the clip, with loop turned off, grabs the entire loop. Okay? It grabs, grabs the entire sample. I want the entire sample to play when I trigger it one time, and here's why. I'm going to go to the menu and go to the sampler. I'm going to set the inputs to resample left and right. Engage recording. I'm going to test it one time just to see the levels. Looks good. Going to hit play. And now I'm going to resample the entire sample at the new pitch and the new tempo. Well, this is 123. So I'll be back in a moment. Now right here, the sample cuts short, and I don't know why. Thanks, Akai Force. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but I stopped the sample, stop it sampling. And I want to keep it. I'm going to name it something. So I go to the name. And I'll just call it New Voyage. You can't see it because the screen is notoriously difficult to film. New Voyage, keep. Okay, good. Now I go to the clip. I'm checking to see why it cut off short. There still is no explanation for that in my mind. In the new sample, in the sample editor, we're going to cut off that little blank space at the beginning. Of course, scrolling in with one hand causes the screen to jump all over the place. Just another, go back to discard. Just another way the Force makes life easier. I love the Force, you guys know it, but you know, it's like my favorite rotten stepchild. Just going back to my clip from earlier. I'm going to clip, selecting grid, and selecting the select tool, and then browsing samples and going to the new one, New Voyage. Now I'm going to see how these how this sample adheres to the music with and without drums. You'll hear a little bit of that experimentation. I'm not going to go into in this video how I would chop up and use this sample so far. I just want to see if I was able to quickly and easily import a vocal sample and make it adhere to an existing track in the Force using no software. But let's listen. First thing, and this is very important actually, is to go to the matrix and put your project from the 89 we're setting sample time in, recording sample time, the sample in, and putting it back to 123.
Au-dessus des vieux volcans, glisse des ailes sous le tapis du vent. Voyage, voyage, éternellement. De nuages en marécage, de vent d'Espagne en
Now you've heard enough of the sample to hear how the overall mood of the sample is. Now watch when I add this other bass line, how a bass line and the progression can change the whole tone, the whole atmosphere, the mood of the sample. Watch. Watch this. Now there's tension. That bass line. Whew.
Au-dessus des vieux volcans, glisse des ailes sous le tapis du vent. Voyage, voyage, éternellement.
So beautiful.
De nuages à récage, devant des pagnes emplis d'équateur. Voyage, voyage, vol dans les hauteurs, au-dessus des capitales, des idées fatales. Regarde l'océan.
I'm putting the vocals into sub 2 so I can set it to reverb and echo.
Plus loin que la nuit et le jour. Voyage dans l'espace inouï de l'amour. Voyage, voyage sur l'eau sacrée d'un fleuve indien. Voyage et jamais ne reviens.
Again, timing's a little off. It'll be fixed in slicing.
Au-dessus des vieux volcans, au-dessus des vieux volcans, glisse des ailes sous le tapis du vent. Voyage, voyage, éternellement.
Exclude from launch.
De nuages à récage, devant des pagnes emplis d'équateur. Voyage, voyage, vol dans les hauteurs.
Alright, so that's how you set the pitch and the length, time, stretch, and sample to fit a problem in just the Akai Force. Obviously, the process seems long, it seems drawn out, but after doing it twice, it has already shrank in steps. Twofold. I imagine that eventually I can do an entire track aside from processing time, which is problematic if you ask me, but I can probably do I can probably get this done in 8 to 10 minutes of actual work. So stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be software. The next one's going to be long. There's going to be chapters. First is I go into Ableton and I use screencasting software to do the entire process so that you can see it, and I'll be doing a narration just like this, and then we'll be taking that into the Force. And you know what, spoiler alert, I haven't recorded that video yet, but I'm telling you, software is the way to go for this, and I'm going to drop bombs. All right. Anyway, everybody be blessed. Yeah, like and subscribe, etc., etc. You can get this pack, including these upgraded, with vocals added, etc., by purchasing the Melodic Techno and Progressive House Toolkit for Akai Force, and there's a link in the description. GhostWrittenClips.com is the website where you can get that, but you can also go just to the homepage and sign up for the email list. I'm sending out an email very, very soon with all kinds of free stuff. I only send out about 3 emails a year, and they all contain a large amount of samples and projects for a multitude of different pieces of hardware and even software. So, love you guys. Be blessed.
Au-dessus des capitales, des idées fatales. Regarde l'océan. Voyage, voyage. Plus loin que la nuit et le jour. Voyage dans l'espace inouï de l'amour. Voyage, voyage sur l'eau sacrée d'un fleuve indien. Voyage et jamais ne reviens.